If you clicked on this video to hear the truth about Meghan Markle's childhood friend suddenly blowing the lid off everything, yes, you're in the right place. Because what just happened didn't just rattle Prince Harry. It sent a shockwave through the entire narrative Meghan has spent years polishing. And it all began with a woman who knew her long before the fame, before Hollywood, before royal titles or palace feuds. A woman who's now being accused of something so bizarre it would sound made up if it weren't happening in real time. So let's get into this, because Prince Harry wasn't prepared for any of it. Harry's world has already been shaky for a while, but this latest twist? This one caught him off guard. It wasn't leaked palace gossip. It wasn't a tabloid hit job. It wasn't even a journalist digging for dirt. The curveball came from Meghan's own past, from a girl who grew up with her, laughed with her, vacationed with her, and held a front-row seat to Meghan Markle long before royalty entered the chat. Nanaki Nikki Pretty. Her childhood best friend. Practically family. And suddenly, after years of staying relatively quiet, Nikki found herself forced into the spotlight, thanks to a conspiracy so unhinged it practically broke the internet. For a long time, Nikki has popped up with an occasional opinion or recollection, but she's never been fame-hungry. She didn't try to capitalize on Meghan's status. She wasn't running around giving dramatic tell-alls or angling for clout. But then, out of nowhere, a swarm of hardcore Meghan defenders, Sussex squad accounts, and even a few royal commentators began pushing a theory that was so wild it almost felt like satire. They insisted, quite literally, that Nikki Pretty wasn't a real person. You heard that correctly. They said Meghan's lifelong friend is non-existent. They said the photos of them growing up together were doctored. They said the teenage snapshots were fabricated. Some even went further, claiming Nikki was a made-up figure, created for PR, or worse, a secret operative working against Meghan to plant misinformation. It was the kind of claim that makes you stare at your phone and wonder if common sense has taken a permanent vacation. But Nikki didn't ignore it. And that's when everything exploded. Instead of ranting, instead of defending herself with long explanations, instead of getting dragged into endless comment section battles, she posted something simple and so sharp that it sliced right through the absurdity surrounding her. She wrote, "According to some, I'm not me," and then delivered the knockout line, which begs the question, who's been living my memories? Just like that, the internet froze. It was the exact kind of clapback that shuts down nonsense instantly. People felt the chill of it. It was elegant, sarcastic, devastatingly clear. And it made the conspiracy theorists look unhinged. Support poured in. Thousands. People who remembered photos, interviews, documented history. People who were stunned that a woman's actual identity, her life, her memories, her childhood, was being challenged simply because what she had said about Meghan wasn't flattering. The attempt to erase her backfired spectacularly. And right when all of this was going viral, royal commentator P. Dina swooped in and added fuel to the fire, but not in the way the conspiracy lovers wanted. She shut it down. Completely. She confirmed she knows Nikki personally.
Don't you miss that feeling, getting lost in a story that feels like it was written just for you? If your heart needs a little magic, click on the link in I-button or in the description or pinned comment. It's waiting at infowebster.com. Go feel something again.
Spoken to her. Face to face, real human, real life. She told everyone to cut out the drama and focus on the actual issues at hand instead of inventing science fiction-level plots about childhood friends. But the timing of this whole mess? It could not be worse for Harry and Meghan. While Nikki is being forced to prove she exists, Parliament in the UK is openly debating what to do about Harry and Meghan's royal titles. This isn't whispers anymore. This is actual political discussion. And right in the middle of this growing tension, Harry and Meghan decided to insert themselves into a celebrity anti-AI campaign that had the White House side-eyeing them. People are asking what on earth they were thinking, because choosing that moment of all moments to poke American political circles? Not smart. The monarchy is already drowning in the Prince Andrew disaster. The UK government is fed up with royal drama. And then Meghan and Harry jump into American activism like they're still global influencers with universal goodwill. The timing could not be worse. But to fully understand why Nikki's viral moment struck such a deep nerve, We need to go back to what she represents in Meghan's story. Nikki wasn't a high school acquaintance or someone Meghan met in the early acting days. They've been friends since they were toddlers, 2 years old. That's decades of shared history. They went on family trips together, celebrated milestones together, survived awkward phases together, and collected enough photos to fill multiple shoeboxes. There's one especially iconic picture of them as teenagers standing in front of Buckingham Palace, long before Meghan ever dreamed she'd walk through those gates as an actual duchess. The irony of that photo alone is enough to write an entire script. And it isn't just anecdotal. Tom Bower, a serious biographer, not a tabloid writer, documented their friendship fully. Nikki isn't some random resurfaced acquaintance. She was part of Meghan's inner circle for almost 30 years. And then suddenly, gone. Not drifted apart. Not grew in different directions. It was as if Meghan walked into a new chapter and slammed the door on everyone who didn't fit her new image. And Nikki was one of the first people to feel the sting of that clean break. People close to them say the moment Meghan locked in her relationship with Harry, she started dropping old friends with surgical precision. And Nikki? She had front-row access to Meghan's real personality, long before PR teams and royal protocols entered the picture. Over time, she's spoken openly about what she witnessed, specific details, not vague hints. She talked about Meghan's ambition, the careful self-reinvention, the way she distanced herself from people when they weren't part of her trajectory anymore. And none of it sounded bitter. It sounded like the recollections of someone who genuinely knew her childhood best friend, only to watch her transform into someone unrecognizable. And it wasn't just Nikki who noticed this pattern. One of the most jaw-dropping stories she shared was about Meghan's first marriage to Trevor Engelson. According to Nikki, Meghan didn't simply fall out of love or grow apart. When her career began taking off with Suits, Trevor became inconvenient, so instead of having a difficult conversation, Meghan mailed her engagement and wedding rings back to him. In an envelope. Like a return label. That blew people's minds. Not because divorces aren't painful or messy, they are, but because that level of detachment is something different. Something calculated. Then there was the Princess Diana fascination Meghan apparently had long before Harry entered the picture. According to people who grew up with her, she admired Diana deeply. She loved the attention, the fairy tale, the global adoration. And when Meghan later claimed she never Googled Prince Harry before meeting him, those who knew her rolled their eyes into another dimension. Nikki wasn't throwing shade for fun. She was stating what she saw, what she lived. But the Sussex squad couldn't accept that. So rather than confront the possibility that Meghan might not be the innocent, misunderstood figure they prefer, they attempted something wild. They tried to erase Nikki's existence entirely. They zoomed into old photos looking for editing glitches. They scrutinized lighting, hairlines, shadows. They argued. They twisted timelines. They insisted she was fake. It's one thing to defend your favorite celebrity. It's another to gaslight a real woman out of her own identity. That's what made Nikki's quiet, devastating comeback so powerful. One sentence, one mic drop, and the entire narrative cracked. And with that crack, people started revisiting Meghan's past again. Old stories resurfaced. The Trevor marriage. The disappearing friends. The contradictions. The inconsistencies between what Meghan claims and what her life actually shows. And suddenly the internet wasn't debating whether Nikki existed. They were asking why Meghan's defenders were desperate enough to deny she ever lived. And here's where it gets chilling. If Meghan's fanbase is willing to erase a childhood best friend simply because she won't play along with the PR narrative, what happens when Archie and Lilibet grow up? What happens when they form opinions of their own? What happens if those opinions don't align with Meghan's public image? Will they be dismissed? Silenced? Rewritten? The monarchy is not designed to withstand perpetual chaos. William sees that. Parliament sees that. Royal commentators see it. Charles's strategy of wait it out and be patient is starting to backfire. Every scandal, every misstep, every political stunt from Harry and Meghan chips away at the institution's credibility. And Charles risks being remembered not as a peacemaker, but as a passive monarch who watched preventable chaos unfold. While this is happening, Meghan's attempts to stay relevant feel more strained. Every initiative, every appearance, every campaign feels like a scramble to maintain her place in the spotlight. And audiences can feel desperation. They can smell it. Nikki Pretty didn't need desperation. She didn't need a stage. She didn't even need a full sentence. She dropped one line that reverberated through the royal world. According to some, I'm not me. Which begs the question, who's been living my memories? It was the equivalent of throwing a stone at a glass castle. And that's exactly what Meghan's public image has become, a glass castle. Beautiful, polished, fragile. Nikki's moment wasn't planned. But it might be the turning point that historians, journalists, and royal watchers look back on when analyzing the unraveling of the Meghan narrative. Because this isn't just a childhood friend speaking out. This is someone who represents the beginning of Meghan's life, the part she cannot rewrite, cannot spin, cannot blame on racism, the tabloids, or the royal family. And that's why it hits so hard. The question now isn't whether Nikki exists. The world knows she does. The real question is how long the royal saga can keep spiraling before something irreversible happens. How long before King Charles finally signs off on William's push for decisive action? How long before Harry realizes he may have sacrificed everything, family, country, duty, for someone whose patterns were visible long before he ever met her? Because the truth always finds a way out. And this time, the truth showed up wearing Nikki Pretty's face. Buckle up. This story isn't over. And the next chapter? It might be even louder than this one.